What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. And Congress is doing it again here. They're playing with Americans' lives, and in this case, the economy too, as well. And the debt limit is becoming a very, very real issue here yet again. It's unbelievable here. Republicans, Democrats, can't agree on much these days. And, well, they're talking about cuts to spending to potentially Social Security, Medicare, and even the defense of our country. That's right. And we're going to reach what they call the debt limit or the debt ceiling on Thursday. And they're not going to have an agreement by Thursday. It's not going to happen. Now, what's going to happen here is that we're going to reach this debt limit, and then we're going to have to. It's gonna, I, yeah, loss of words already. So you would think that they can't even reach this debt limit, but they're going to, and then the Treasury is going to have to hit these extraordinary circumstances where, first of all, they shouldn't even be reaching this debt limit. At first, you would think they can't even reach it, but apparently they can. So then they have to really cut down on spending tremendously, or they run out of money basically in their checking account, so to speak. Yeah, so take a listen to this, and this will explain it. And they're going to talk about cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and the defense of our country, our military. All very real things that Congress, Republicans and Democrats, are debating on what's going to happen here when the government runs out of money in the checking accounts, basically. That's right. Take a listen.
Here in Washington, there is a dire warning from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to congressional leaders that the United States is expected to hit its borrowing limit as early as Thursday, in 2 days. That would force the Treasury Department, she says, to take extraordinary measures to keep paying its bills and to prevent a default until early June. Yellen urging lawmakers to act quickly to raise the debt ceiling and, quote, protect the full faith and credit of the country. But it likely will not be that simple. Republicans, of course, now in control of the House and have threatened to use the debt ceiling as leverage to demand spending cuts from Democrats and from the Biden administration. Let's bring in NBC News senior political reporter Sahil Kapoor, who joins us just across the street on Capitol Hill. Sahil, it's good to see you this morning. How close do you think we're going to come here to just violating this thing that used to just be sort of pro forma, that they would raise the debt ceiling and move on, but now is being used as a bargaining chip? And what deals might Speaker McCarthy have made to become Speaker that could affect the process here?
Willie, that is one of the most important questions on Capitol Hill this year. Just how close to the brink will Congress come? Because House Republicans are on a collision course with President Biden on the issue of the debt ceiling. They insist they will not raise it cleanly when the deadline comes up in early June. They want conservative policy provisions attached to it. And this push is being led by many of the same 15 to 20 House Republicans who forced 14 embarrassing defeats for Speaker McCarthy before finally electing him to the job. You know they're willing to use aggressive tactics just based on how they've behaved so far. Look on the screen there. These are some of the things that they've told me that they want. Some of these members say that they want attached to any increase in the debt limit, dollar-for-dollar spending cuts, a 10-year balanced budget, cuts to the mandatory spending pile of the budget. That includes things like Social Security, Medicare, and food stamps, as well as government funding down to fiscal 2022 levels before the previous government funding deal. One of those Republicans, Congressman Chip Roy of Texas, told me, quote, "You only have so many leverage and negotiating points. The debt ceiling is one of those," unquote. Now, Speaker McCarthy himself has not issued a specific list of demands as to what he wants attached to the debt ceiling, but he has endorsed this tactic generally and said President Biden needs to come to the table, negotiate some changes to the federal budget. He compared the U.S. government to a child with a credit card limit that needs to be reduced, and he said he's not budging. Now, the White House says none of this is going to happen. Their position is no negotiations. They point out that this is not about policy. This is simply about whether the U.S. government pays its bills, and that to them is not something that they're going to negotiate on. Let's play what spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre had to say.
It has been done in a bipartisan way over the years and decades, and it should be done in a bipartisan way, and it should be done without conditions. We're not going to do any negotiations, and it should be again done without conditions.
Now, that position is backed by the top two Democrats in Congress, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who said in a recent letter, quote, default forced by extreme MAGA Republicans could plunge the country into a deep recession, unquote. Now, there is one idea that is being talked about a lot in Washington as well as on Wall Street as a way to get around Speaker McCarthy and these conservatives, this idea of a so-called discharge petition, where technically if 218 lawmakers in the House sign it, it has to get to a floor vote regardless of what the Speaker wants. There is a major caveat, though. This would take a long time, 37 legislative days, which I did the math last night. That gets us to mid-May. If they want to do that, they better start very quickly, get a deal in the next few weeks. Otherwise, they're going to be dealing with Speaker McCarthy and these House Republican hardliners in terms of whether and when the country raises the debt ceiling. Willie.
And as of now, they only have 2 days, not those 37. NBC's Sahil Kapoor, thanks so much for reporting from Capitol Hill. Joe, so this will be the question. What did Speaker McCarthy, and it's something we talked about during that process a couple of weeks ago, what did he give up? What did he promise to some of those members to get their votes in terms of promises about cutting spending, about going after the debt that could hold up this process?
Right. It's a great question. The Wall Street Journal asking questions also about how the Republicans are going to handle this, talking about the fact that, the hard reality of a debt ceiling showdown, Democrats control the White House. Democrats control the Senate.
Yeah, so Democrats control the presidency, the White House. Democrats control the Senate, but need 60 votes in the Senate. So they really need Republican votes there. Mitch McConnell has been pretty cooperative about the debt ceiling in the past. He realizes that you can't let the country default. He realizes that the majority of this stuff is past debt. And he also realizes that 99.9% of the stuff going forward gets voted on by Republicans and Democrats anyways. It gets agreed upon. So, for example, the $1.7 trillion government budget that was just passed needed Republican and Democrat votes to pass. Mitch McConnell voted yes on it. They needed Republican support to pass it. And now, even going forward this year, it needs even more Republican votes because now the Republicans control the House. So even more so, you need even more Republican votes to pass anything because last year the Democrats controlled the House. So they could pass things in the House without Republican support, but they needed Republican support in the Senate. Okay. But even more so now, you even need even more bipartisan support to pass any bill. Okay. Because you need Republicans support for sure in the House, and you need Republican support in the Senate as well, even though the Democrats technically control the Senate. You need 60 votes in the Senate. Okay. So realistically, any spending has to be approved, except for in cases like executive orders. Okay. We do have the student loan forgiveness executive order, which is currently going up to the Supreme Court right now, which is actually, the Supreme Court is actually Republican controlled. So technically, Republicans are actually going to kind of get the final say on whether or not that's going to be approved there or not, in a way. But, that's going to hold the fate of 40 million Americans, whether or not they're going to get this type of stimulus relief here for $10,000 to $20,000 of relief here. They're going to be holding that hearing next month in February, and I'll keep you up to date here on that. And that also could lead to other types of debt relief. There is actually medical debt relief going on here in some states right now. If you've been watching my channel, I'm keeping up to date here on that. There's also a bill for medical debt relief federally, countrywide here as well. That could lead to things like that. And there could be other types of debt relief here as well. Property tax relief. We're actually seeing this here in some of the states. And maybe credit card debt relief or other types of debt relief. And if you've been watching my channel, you know here that 35 states in 2022, last year, have done stuff like this. They've done property tax checks, inflation relief checks, state stimulus checks. So 35 states have done things like this. We'll just call them inflation relief. And we're already seeing states like this year in 2023. We've already seen a couple different states announce this. I just did some videos on this. In fact, I'll link you to a video here. I'll link you to a couple. Well, I'll link you to one video here, and you can kind of go from there after that. But yeah, so we're already seeing stuff like this here in 2023. And then if the student loan debt forgiveness goes through via executive order, we could see a lot more here. That's for over 40 million people. And then we have the states doing stuff as well. That's for, well, last year was 35 states. That's probably hundreds of millions of people if you add up the population of 35 states here. You know, for example, the stimulus checks for California alone was 23 million people just in that one state. California's done stimulus checks several years in a row just for that one state. Who knows if they'll do it again this year. So we'll see here. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. But this debt limit thing is going to be very serious. Will they cut benefits to Social Security? Will they cut benefits to Medicare? Will they cut benefits to other things? My little friend wanted to come say hi. This is Snowy. Yeah, hi. Will they cut the defense budget? Kevin McCarthy recently said that they could cut $75 billion to the defense budget. And he said that's a very real possibility. If you've seen my recent video on that, I know. He said that they could be doing that here as well. And a lot of Republicans are saying that cuts to Social Security and Medicare, very real as well also. So if you haven't yet, make make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll keep you up to date here. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, thanks so much for liking and sharing our videos here. Here's some videos you can watch next. You can click here to watch my video about $1,500 checks going out to actually some millions of people here. And here's my video about SNAP benefits that are actually going to be ending here. Very big news here on that. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.